Safe, I think. I think. Oh God.
Holy moly! It's official. This is your first filming session in the new place.
That's right. You're
Welcome.
right. Yeah, that's right.
And he brought me coffee. This is why Guthrie is one of my favorite people ever. So when's the
Is that all it takes? No.
The Nashville Guthrie Trapp food experience? I think that's the one thing that people don't understand is you are the ultimate food guide of Nashville.
Well, I thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it needs to be like an all-inclusive guitar lessons and food with Guthrie Trapp.
Got to do it, man. I've been thinking about it for way too long.
Dude.
Time to put it into action. Well, I was until 2 months ago until I started eating the same thing every day because I had a little bit too much of the food experience, and I needed to dial it back a little bit. But yeah, I lost 20 pounds in the past 2 months. So now I guess I can start over again.
It's a cycle.
Right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I feel great though, man. It's like the COVID thing has been, some people have, we all started off, kind of partying a little bit more, and people were, drinking more at home, I think. And then I saw that was like, okay, time to...
It's a recipe for disaster.
Let's dial that back a little bit. And then I said, well, look, I've got all this free time. I might as well use this to get in shape, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good, and I hope everybody's doing good out there. I know it's been a weird year. And
have you used that awesome bike sitting in your house?
I haven't used that. No, I've been doing it all on foot, but it's time to get it out. Me and my friend were just talking about that yesterday. It's like, it's so dangerous to ride a bike in Nashville.
Where you live, totally.
We got to go to the Greenway and do
well,
and it's also level there because it's by the river. So that's the place to go ride the bike.
There's like a good trail.
Because man, you don't realize I'm from the Gulf Coast originally, and you come up to Nashville and try to ride a bike. There's a lot more hills than you think.
Yeah, oh for sure.
It gets really hilly, really quick, even in my neighborhood there. So.
Just Guthrie Trapp found dead on his bicycle.
Oh, don't even say that. Mom, sorry.
Oh, that's hilarious. That place, the hike, the Percy Warner, is a good, good track too for bikes. It's like 12-mile loop.
That's a butt kicker too, dude. Yeah.
I just was running sprints with the family there the other day up some of those hills, and I was like, I'm gonna die. Bodie on my back.
Oh man, yeah. You're like,
All right, like so guitar.
More guitar. All right.
We were doing a little E.
Yeah, so that was
B minor.
That was E major to B minor 7.
That's what that chord's called.
Yeah, or you can play straight B minor. Or yeah, it's nice. I like the grip,
Yeah.
And then you can do these little embellishments around the. I like that sound, So that's a B minor with I think they call it a minor 9.
With another note thrown in there?
Yeah, minor 13 or minor 9.
Right.
No extra charge for the brilliant theory knowledge that I have. So, no, that's a cool little thing,
Yeah. Very Hendrixy.
You can kind of Hendrix it out there, yeah. So there's that chord.
All right.
Then your A, and then you can, of course, if you grab the whole chord like that, you're not leaving yourself any room for embellishments.
Yep.
And so I usually grab the bass note with my thumb, and then at least that gives my pinky.
Yeah. When you can do all those cool like hammers like this way.
Right. And then that's the other thing. This E, if I play that whole chord like that, that doesn't leave any room for anything.
Let me ask you this really quick.
That's why triads are so cool, because they only take up three
little spots.
3 fingers,
or
one. Depending on what the grip. Like if this one, if I'm playing out of this shape, I'll grab that triad with my first finger, and that leaves all this out of the G shape for. There's a lot of guitar right there.
Show them what you mean by the G shape if they don't know.
Okay, so that's your A-shaped E chord.
Yeah.
Because that's like a movable capo. So anything, this is just moving up. That's why the caged system is so important, is because it, anywhere other than down here, you're going to be playing out of closed positions. So you're really limiting yourself if you're not working up the neck, right?
So it's basically a traditional chord shape. Like when he says the G shape, think of like a G chord.
Right. So that's the A shape. So then this, they all connect to each other. So if you look at this shape, and then I take 1, 2, 3. I'm still playing these 3 notes of that last shape. I'm just moving up to the different positions. So now the tonic, or the root, ends up on the 6th, or on the low E string. So that gives you your G shape. Because if that was a capo there, yes, you would play.
Yeah.
But nobody on the history of guitar is ever going to play that shape.
It's too big.
Although there's a lot of guitar in that shape. I look at the G shape as in 3 sections. This one, this one, and then finally, if you needed that one, right? So there's a lot of guitar in there, and so I always like playing the 5 minor. When you can. Or if somebody writes a song, you go to a session and somebody writes a song that has a 5 minor in it. Everybody goes, oh yeah, we love it.
Right.
It's just a cool.
It's a good sound.
It's a cool sound. It gets you away from otherwise it would be, here's your 1, your E. There's your 5. That's, of course. But if you play the 5 minor, it's giving you the flat 7 of the E, which is that D note, which kind of really like. Do
me a favor, because my rhythm was super uninspired.
Well, it was great. It was perfect.
No, but if you were going to play by yourself, what would you do rhythm-wise over that chord progression? Like same kind of tempo, same kind of feel. You're backing up a band.
Yeah, kind of like the same thing you were doing. It's like instinctively that's where I would go to, is because that is such a comfortable shape in E, and you get the low E string. So you're kind of. It is a very Hendrix vibe,
sure.
But kind of that same thing. Let's see if I can do something here without really blowing it. So actually, before we get into that, part of this is before we started recording here, I sat down in this chair, and Brett goes, "Oh man, you even know where to sit," and I go, "Well, that's because I've been on the right side of the stage." On every gig I've ever had in my life, I've always stood on the right side. And so I feel really weird sitting on the other side. And I'll tell you why, is because if I'm playing with somebody like Sean Camp or Jimmy Stewart or John Oates or whoever we're playing with, like the artist or the singer-songwriter or whatever, I'm usually standing right next to them. I like to stand next to them. And so if I'm sitting here or standing here on stage, I can always see what the other guitar player is doing, the guy that wrote the song, right? And so I'm always watching their hands, and maybe, a lot of times it's because I might not really know the song that well, or whatever it is. And I'm listening, of course, I'm listening to what's going on, but I'm also watching. I love to be on the right side because I can always see what the other guitar player's doing. So if Oates or somebody's doing something down here, there's your A, there's your E. I'm gonna go up here. I'm never gonna play the same thing that they're playing because it starts canceling each other out. And so why not get the most out of having 2 guitars?
So you just flip flop. They go high, you go low. Vice versa.
Or if you're on a session and the other guitar player's playing a Strat, I'm gonna grab something totally different. Like either a 335 or just to have, why not get the most out of having two players? So getting back to this point is if Brett was playing down here in open E, I'd want to get up here and play something in a different tonal area,
Yep.
But anyway, so that I would play something like this probably.
Okay, so I was hoping you'd do all that. Okay, so the little kind of brown-eyed girl style licks in there. How do you do those?
Yeah, I call them like Memphis style. R&B.
Is that where it comes
licks.
from? Is it Memphis?
Well, I always go. That's kind of like Steve Cropper.
Yeah,
he did so much of that. Like,
dude, where is that?
That
guy?
was kind of his
Is he
style.
Still around?
He lives like right over here
in
in
front. I hear it now. It's everyone. Let's get him over.
Yeah, his address is
exactly.
No,
so we can learn from the man, the myth himself.
I've gotten to work with him a bunch of times, man. What a trip, And then my favorite movie of all time is The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And so you got Cropper in there, but yeah, those little things are just. I mean, everything I play, I can relate right back to the chord shape. And so if I go to A, which you got to be careful doing these over the 4 chord because you're getting that D, which sometimes can sound a little odd over the E major. So, but if I'm in E, it works great. So here, I'm looking at this chord, and then this chord. So that's where this comes from. So this is just breaking these chords down from big chord, triad, now the 2 notes, the 1 and then the major 3rd right here. And then so this is basically playing the scale. Right? But so the notes out of that are the 1 and the 3, and then the 4 and the 2, which doesn't really matter. It's the shape, right? It's this. And then, so now I've got the 5 and the 3 here. So, but that's really just part of the scale. It just happens to work nicely. There's your A shape. Watch A, 3rd, A minor, E. Now watch, back down a whole step, B7, because there's B7. So this becomes a B7 because there's my flat 7 of B, there's my 5, resolving to the E. So it's all about these shapes. You gotta really look at and get inside these chords because one shape might be 3 different things. Like we were saying earlier, this E shape, if I take it down a whole step, well, that could be D, depending on what bass note's in there. But the triad, there's E. Now here, that's a B minor 7.
Yeah.
There it is. So here's my arpeggio. Or actually, there's my key chord tones in that chord, A. So wherever I'm at on the fingerboard, if I'm in this section, I look at the guitar kind of in these 3 sections. Like I'm either here, or I'm up here. There's 5 chord shapes. Once you learn those 5, you really know them in every key because here's C, here's E flat or C sharp, here's D flat or C sharp, here's D, here's E, here's F, here's G, here's A. So once you learn the chord and all the information around it in each one of those 5 shapes, you really know all of them. They're just moving around. So and then you see how they work together. Like here's your C, F, and G here. Here's your C, F, and G here. Here. You want to be able to see those relationships in each section. And that's when the guitar really starts opening up, because what a lot of people don't realize is even somebody that's a pro that's been doing this a long time, we're not coming up with new stuff in every key necessarily. I'm using a lot of the same stuff that's just repeating itself. So the guitar, there's a lot of repeating on the guitar. This note is there, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. You know, there's E's everywhere. So if you learn a lick, even if it's something real simple like, you know, try to learn that in every possible place on the fingerboard so you can see how this stuff starts repeating and coming together.
Right.
Because it's not as mystifying as you might think.
Yeah.
Now it can be, but it doesn't always have to be.
So let's do this. So in the caged shapes, if you were to pick 3 that you think you use the most, which 3 would they be? And then also, like you said, what's the information that you can play around those 3 shapes?
Right. So we ended up in C here for some reason. I like C because you can get, for examples, because it gives you a lot of fingerboard. So
are we in the key of C now? Is that
yeah.
Okay.
Let's start in C. So you know, the A shape is great. Actually, you know what? I say the A shape. I use the A shape a lot to get into the G shape. Into the G shape. You know what I mean? So like we did a minute ago, you know.
Yeah.
It's nice to go. This just fits nicely under your hand. You know, it's like. Then you're right there.
Yeah.
Then once you're in this G shape, this works great because I'm barring that triad, the B string, the G string, and the D string. That's our 1, 3, 5, which is a proper triad. Well, that leaves these fingers open to be able to play. I can play F. I can play G. G7, back to C. I could play these country bends.
Well, show them why. Go back to what you just said, because you use different cage shapes. So show them what you just did.
So that was like, that's a C triad.
Right.
Then I'm playing the C-shaped F chord, which is right here. So here's the G-shaped C chord. There's the C-shaped F chord, right? And then that's the D-shaped G chord, which we would never play like this, but that's all the notes. I play it like this, because you get. And then. Let's see, I'm just messing around. But so if I go G, back to the 1, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at all these shapes. But, you know, one leads into the next. That's the point of this. But there's a lot of good stuff in the G shape, you know, all that kind of, the Hendrix stuff. These Vince Gill style bends are like Mark Knopfler style bends.
If you took that shape, though, is there a scale shape that works around that particular shape?
So every chord, okay, so let's just take the G shape. So what I would recommend doing is learning these chords until you can see them in your sleep, and then the information around it. So I go, the chord is the ultimate foundation. That's what without the chord, we've got this. So we commit to a sound, C major. Then you want to mark your arpeggios. So those are the key chord tones, are those notes. Then you connect that. So that's the first level of framework. The second level of framework is the pentatonic. So then we connect that. Okay, then the third level of framework is the major scale. So then we connect that. Right, and then the next level from that is improvising with those notes that you're given. So what I did when I was a kid that opened up the fingerboard of the guitar for me was I learned C and all the. There's your scale. Here's the A shape. Here's the scale. Here's the G shape. Here's the E shape. Here's the D shape. So you don't get a tonic on the E strings every time. This is the C shape, so that's your third is going to be on the low E string, and your third is going to be on the high E string. So you don't get a tonic on that shape. It's an interesting shape. And then you're back up to square 1, 12th fret. You're back up to C, which is where you started. So with those 5 chords, the chord is the foundation. The arpeggio is the first level of framework, then the pentatonic second, and then third is the scale. And they all are incremental. You know,
Do you teach all this in artist work stuff?
Yeah.
So if you don't know, Guthrie's got an awesome, what is it, like a school, right? Basically.
Online curriculum, school.
On Artist Works. So check that out too. We'll just tell you about it. I was going to say I'll leave the link below, but
yeah.
we're live.
Definitely check that out. And of course, while we're on that subject, I mean, you can find me very easily. My name is Guthrie Trapp.
Yeah.
I think I might be the only one on the planet.
Do you do interaction in that curriculum? Do they?
Yeah. So the cool thing about that platform that they have out there, great people, great company. They're all really good friends of mine, and they've got great teachers. Brian Sutton's on there. Paul Gilbert, John Patitucci, Nathan East. They've got some Martin Taylor. There's some
Keith Wyatt, all
those people. There's some great people teaching there, and they're just they keep the bar and their integrity really high.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so we partnered up on the Country Electric Guitar School. But the thing about that is, and they'll even tell you too, it's not limited to that.
Yeah.
And so it leans toward country stuff, but the fundamentals are all applicable to every genre of music. I use the same principles and things that I'm looking at over any. Yeah. It's just music at that point and what song you're playing, right? So that's another thing that we'll get into.
Well, they seem like they're a company where they like to pick a teacher for a genre. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
They do.
You just happen to start in the country realm.
Right. Exactly. And so we're in the process of kind of looking at that too, and maybe doing some different stuff. Yeah, that diversifying a little bit. But so with that being said, is you also have the option of doing these video exchanges, and so that means if you're a student on Artist Works, you have access to all the lessons that we recorded a couple years ago, which is over 200 lessons from beginner, intermediate, and then all the way up to the stuff I know how to do today. But more advanced.
You know any more stuff? God damn it.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to catch up.
Let's not get too specific. But so anyway, so what you can do is if you have access to all that, and I'll wrap this up quick, but you can also submit a video of your progress or a placement video where you just introduce yourself, and I then respond. I get that in a queue, and then I sit at home in front of one of my cameras, and I'll do a nice response to you, and so I can cover anything. So what it does is it kind of opens up to where you can have a more personal relationship with the teacher versus just a bunch of online curriculum that you can't ask questions to, right? Yeah. And not only will I respond to you, but you also have access to, if you don't want to submit a video for lack of technology, or maybe you're shy and you don't want to sit in front of the camera for whatever reason, you can also access all the other video exchanges that I've ever done for anybody else. They're cool. All on there. Yeah. So if you see a title that applies to your question, you can go see all these responses that I've done to that too. So it's pretty cool.
It is cool. And typically, like you're saying, a lot of people will ask the same questions.
Right. And hardly, of all those students on there, over probably like 11 or 1,200 are all around the world now. Most of the time people are asking about playing over chord changes or some. Very few people are like country specific. Yeah. So I think the way that I'm teaching, I've learned a lot more about it over the past 4 or 5 years.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm finally starting to see what works and what doesn't. And it's about, 50% the spirit of music and listening and really hearing what's going on, which I should say more like 75% or 80%. And then the other percentage of that is knowing enough about what you're actually doing. And that is knowing a little bit of simple theory. Right. And knowing at least where your 1, 3, 5 is and starting to be able to see a little bit of what you're doing. So you don't want to get too out of balance on either side. No. I'm out of balance because I'm more feel and ear than I am worried about every note on the fingerboard. I don't have every note on the fingerboard memorized. I just don't.
Well, but what I don't think the people realize is, just through being taught, so many players will say, oh, you got to know all your theory and all your scales. And I think where your approach and my approach is similar is once you see those chord shapes under your fingers and can even mix those with, say, like a pentatonic scale. Right. You start to oh, that's all that stuff I wanted to know. You may not know what the mode's called. Right. But the sound of it is there. The sound of it. Yeah.
And once you have those shapes under your belt, and I mean really well, to where but really good enough to where you can go, okay, if I had to, and I've never done this, but I tell some private students and stuff, I'll go, look, if I was to test you, I would say, okay, know all 5 shapes, and I want you to be able to point to them without having your hand on the guitar.
Yeah.
So when you see this fingerboard, I can see my E major key chord tones all over here.
Place.
You know, I can see it. And then, you know, once you get that relationship down between, okay, there's my big giant chord, then we're going to break them down into these triads. And then once you get that under your fingers and the arpeggios and stuff, then the muscle memory of knowing that stuff is, you've eliminated that fundamental and you're on to the next thing.
Can we try something real quick?
Yeah.
That goes over the 3 stages. So I want to play that same chord progression and play it in stages.
Okay.
Okay, so the first stage is you only know the pentatonic.
Okay.
Right? Second stage is your second stage the arpeggio or the scale around that?
Okay, so so this is pretty important. So the chord, I say this, the chord is the foundation.
Chord is the foundation.
The arpeggio is the first level of framework.
Okay.
And then the pentatonic, and then the scale.
Okay.
So you're adding to that framework literally incrementally. It's very sequential because let's go over it just real quick. Here's your like let's just say here's your
we play the same chord progression?
Let's just say this real quick for example. Here's A major. There's the chord. Here's the arpeggio. Now that's 2 octaves. This is the same as this. So those are the same notes repeating already, right? Okay, so then your pentatonic. So I'm just adding the 2 and the 6 to the arpeggio. So I think that's right. So it becomes this. Then from that, we're adding the scale tones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, or 8, right? And then the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the 3 levels of really marking the chord, and that's playing around when I say play around the chord, that's what that means, is using the chord as the foundation for everything that comes after that, because it makes sense. Look, if you look at this, the chord is the tonal foundation, or like I call it the sonic backdrop, because everything that you're going to play is harmonically related to the chord that's going on when the chord changes, or even if it doesn't change, whatever flavor you're hearing. And that's what kind of gets you beyond the pentatonic place is knowing, like, okay, well, if I'm going to go sit in at a bar somewhere in San Diego, and I have no idea what the band's going to play, and I get up and somebody hands me their guitar, and I go, okay, guys, what are we playing? Hopefully it's not a Steely Dan song. You know, like play something like, and I'll say, hey, play something that doesn't have a lot of changes in it so we can just jam, right? And so if somebody starts doing this, you know, right, I'm going to know, okay, cool, it's like a reggae vibe, it's like A minor, I get the feel of it immediately, and I can start jamming. And so that's what you want to be able to do, is really, so much of it comes down to listening and just knowing, because I've heard this a million times, guys will go, well, I know the minor and major pentatonic shapes, I can use that over everything, right? And I go, well, not really. And so, you know, it all comes down to it's very song specific. Because every song is different. You know, you might, especially going and doing sessions in Nashville, you might have a guy that's writing a bunch of different songs. It might be, you know, you might be playing something that's like, you know, very folky or singer-songwriter.
Super pretty.
Super pretty singer-songwriter 1 minute. Well, then the next song could be like a rockabilly feel or something. You just never know. So you have to you kind of know, as soon as you hear something, know what to be able to play that's appropriate for that, you know.
Well, and I think a lot of people,
and then it just keeps going on from there, you know.
When they hear your style, I don't think they realize that a lot of what you do is that scale shape, those extra notes beyond pentatonic. So that's why I kind of wanted to do this, is like,
let's do it.
Start out real, we'll use the same chord progression, real basic. And then at the end, so let's do a few passes and just tell them when you're going to switch into that new thing. But at the very end too, throw in, because you do really good chromatic stuff too, just so they can see how it builds on top of each other.
Okay.
Sound good?
This will be a challenging exercise. So we're starting with the pentatonic.
Then
we're gonna embellish a little bit more.
Then maybe arpeggio.
Or
then
no,
scale.
it'd be arpeggio first.
Okay. Can you play over
yeah.
the?
I think so.
Okay, let's try it. We'll figure it. But just let them know what you're gonna start adding.
Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do it in the sequence of what we just talked about. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna try to do this, like no extra charge for mistakes, but it's like it'll be the arpeggio, then the pentatonic, and then I'll start using some more major scale and like you said, some chromatics and some different stuff.
All right, same changes. Ready?
All right, sounds good. Okay, pentatonic. Then now.
But the
I was drifting in and
No.
out.
No. I put you on the spot.
It's kind of tough to stick to. But I mean, I could probably, without a time, I can show you
Here's the thing. Let me back this up a second.
Sure.
If you wanted to, and I've seen you do it, like I've seen you sit in with a blues band and you freaking rip on blues. Thanks. Really, really good vibrato, like all that stuff. But in your wheelhouse, when I see you play like with the guys you sit in with the station in or whatever, it's a much more melodic backdrop. It's not 1-4-5. It's,
right.
And that's that seems like your place. But like even when you were,
I'm lucky I get to play really good songs.
Yeah, you do.
Really
but just what you did right there, you kept it basic so people could see it. But you started busting out in pentatonic playing. You know what I mean? Like real bluesy based pentatonic playing. So you totally can do that. It's just not that you know what I mean? Like you're showing people the shapes and stuff like that.
Right, and you really got to be careful with something like that because that's not a place like that. Those chords, that chord progression, that's not a place for minor pentatonic blues until you get over the B minor.
Yeah,
that works because you're playing.
So if I play the chords, I'm going to play the chords separately on their own, slowly, so you can show them like what an E's.
Okay, so that's E major.
Yeah.
To me, yeah. So I'm going to play. Here's what I'm not going to do. Play the chord again.
Yeah.
That's not going to fit over that groove because it just doesn't fit.
Right.
It's more pretty and like That's more of the vibe of that.
Totally. So you have like the Mark Knopfler approach to blues.
But it depends, right? So if you start doing this, that's a whole different story.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
But so the key of E can be 10,000 different feels.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be Afro-Cuban jazz, it could be bebop, it could be country, it could be anything. It's just the key.
Yeah.
And so how you approach that and what song you're playing is everything.
In the context of this tune.
So in this tune. yeah, I would, very major.
Right. Okay.
I love that lick because it sounds really nice. So then when I go to the B minor.
Oh, so you like add the arpeggio in there.
So that would be over the B minor.
Yeah. Which sounds freaking amazing.
Right? And so that's over the B minor. So I'm playing over B minor 7, literally. So what that is the B minor pentatonic. But I'm adding the 2 to it. So what we talked about before, that chord, I'm adding that note here, here, and here. So what that gives you is some mode that you guys know that I don't, but
I don't know Ian mode?
That I don't know Ian mode. I love that. I'm stealing that shit for sure. Okay, so what that does though is instead of giving you this really square, boxy pentatonic, it gives you this melodic note. Right?
Yeah.
So what that does is most people are going to tell you that the minor scale is this. Which they're probably right. If you go to Berkeley or whatever you need to do to learn the scale, that's what they're going to tell you, that note is in that scale. I say I take that note out.
Yeah.
Because it's a real hard note.
It is hard.
Here's what that note sounds like in the chord.
Yeah. That's getting into like 80s metal territory.
Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate that note.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Because this is more, that's a way more melodic.
It sounds more exotic and like vibey.
Right?
Too.
So I like that. But I'll tell you when this note does come in handy. If I'm playing, this is a whole other thing, but I'm going to drop it on you. So if I'm playing in B minor and my 5 chord is a F sharp dominant 7. So this gives you that Latin kind of feel like this.
Yeah.
So let me show you this real quick. The reason why that note works in that is because when I go to this 5 chord, I can substitute the diminished for the 5. So here's my tritone. Well, if I build a diminished chord on that, how nicely does that resolve? So watch. Dude. So that works. So if I play the 5, right, you guys are going to know what this is called, and you're going to comment that it's melodic minor or harmonic minor or something like that. Guthrie Momstein. Mom. So, but that's the thing. You can. So when you get inside these shapes, here's a B minor arpeggio. There's your F sharp dominant 7 arpeggio. And then so you can play diminished over the 5 chord. That's when that note.
Yeah. You like it. That's when it's your friend.
That's when that note's your friend. Because you hear this all the time. You'll hear guys do this.
Yeah.
Don't do that, guys.
Santana?
Please try to stay away from that. Yeah, I personally just don't like it, as you can tell. Right? But I'm just saying, there's a time and place for everything. Those notes. So just because somebody tells you that the minor scale you can play over a minor chord, that note's got, like if I go into a session and and the songwriter's doing this,
right?
Well, that's an A minor, but I'm not going to go.
Yeah,
that's not going to work. So you really gotta. That's what I'm saying. Use your ears.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to the specific song and flavor of the music that you're playing, which could lead us to a whole nother hour-long lesson. I know we're not going to get into that maybe today, but I've had a lot of people ask, you know, how do you get past the pentatonic box? Well, you have to start, you know, putting some time into it and working on it. And I always say there's 4 chords and 4 sounds that you need to kind of start checking out. And so I would say, like, let's just take E for an example. E major 7, E dominant 7, and then E minor. So with those 4 chords, you can pretty much navigate your way through a lot of music. And you can also, this is also going to help you get out of the pentatonic box, because that's very limiting, and that's just one level of framework that we need to know. You know, so don't stop there. That's a perfect place to keep going, because you do have that nice outline now.
Who's a good player?
Hold on real quick.
Okay,
not to cut you off, but I'm gonna finish my thought here. But look, so when you take a chord like that, here's a great rule, and this is the whole point. If I take this triad anywhere on the fingerboard in any key, any inversion of a 1-3-5 proper major triad, let's just go to this one for an example. Here's an E, but a D shape. Okay, there's my 1, there's my 3, there's my 5. Okay, like I said, any proper triad, anywhere on the fingerboard, any key, this rule applies. And this is what can help you break out of the pentatonic box. This is E major. If I drop the 1 a half step, that's E major 7. I'm just dropping that 1. So the note that changes in the chord is the note that we have to change when we're playing lead guitar, because that's the foundation that we're given. So here's E, drop the 1, down a half step, E major 7, drop the 1 a whole step, that's E dominant 7. Drop the 3 down a half step, E minor, right? So right there in every triad, there's your minor, there's major, major 7, dominant 7, minor. So here, major, major 7, dominant 7, minor.
Yeah.
And so that is a thing that I've been showing people, because that's using your ear and seeing it on the fingerboard in a applicable rule or exercise, right?
Who's a player that's like in a, because a lot of people like blues or rock. Who's a player that isn't terrifying as far as speed goes? It's very slow but very melodic, that you like, where they can start to hear this kind of a thing in their playing.
Mark Knopfler.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite.
Is
Go back to the very first record and listen to that one.
His own records?
Dire Straits.
Dire Straits, okay.
So the first Dire Straits record and the second.
Okay.
And then there's one I like called, well, of course, the first 2, then Brothers in Arms, and then I like On Every Street, which is the last one they made under the name Dire Straits. And then Mark started doing his solo records, which are also fantastic. There's so much great guitar on those records.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he's the guy. I mean, I went and saw, and Vince Gill too. I mean, he can play. These guys can play fast. There's no question about it. But they're not. Everything they play, you want to hear again.
Yeah.
You know, guys like Ry Cooder, David Lindley, you know, David Gilmour. You know, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. This is just the.
And they're all out of the box. They're not. I mean, like David Gilmour is a great example. He does play bluesy, but adds all that other stuff in there.
Oh God, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, what do we got question wise?
We have Michael asking, how does he embellish the cage chords with thirds, fourths, sus notes?
I don't know.
What? How do you embellish?
Well, the cage notes are root, third, and fifth.
Yeah.
So I guess like if you were gonna add if you're maybe he's
so
talking about.
So if I'm playing out of this.
Yeah. And
then if I'm playing out of E here, you know, I'm gonna use the 4 because that's your nice sus. Or here.
Yeah.
Or here. So I might go.
Yeah, here I'll play the chord.
Yeah, so. Okay, so that's using the 4. That's my A. That's a nice change, right? Oh, sorry. Now go to the B minor.
Mm-hmm. Do it.
A. E. B minor.
See, the playing, that's what's so cool about your playing is it is bluesy, but it's just melody. Like it's not limited by just blues licks. You know, like for me, and this, might, upset some people, but like I want to cut on myself after I go to like a blues gig and you just hear 1, 4, 5s and like blues playing all night long. But when somebody
it has to be really,
really
great.
Good. Yeah. But when people start adding that other stuff, those arpeggios, those other notes, is when it's like, oh, what was that?
Well, that's why we all freaked out the first time we ever heard Robin Ford. And I can tell you exactly where I was, what vehicle I was in, who turned me on to it, because it was a lifestyle. When I heard that, maybe the biggest ever for me. I mean, Danny Gatton was huge. I went through, I call that a phase because it is. It's very one thing, you know. Like I could listen to Dire Straits and Mark Knopfler for the rest of my life and never really get bored. I listen to the same songs every week, you know, because I love it. Makes me feel something. And so with Danny Gatton, I mean, he did a bunch of amazing stuff, but it was very, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I learned a lot from him, though, and so a ton of ideas from Danny Gatton, but I don't listen to his music anymore. Yeah. It's like Stevie Ray Vaughan. When you put his records on these days, you'll go, oh my God, this was like, this guy was amazing, freaking unbelievable. But I don't put his records on really anymore. When I hear it, I'm like, wow, this is so good. Yeah. But I don't really listen to that anymore. Sure. Yeah. And so, what were we just talking about?
No, we were talking about your playing is and the players that you're mentioning. It's blues based, but it goes beyond into like arpeggios and Robin Ford.
Yeah, so when I heard him, I was like, this is where it's at.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because it was the same. I can remember the same thing too, where I was. But that it was like the Talk to Your Daughter album or something like that. I was like,
and then the first Blue Line record was the one that really blew my mind. And then he did Tiger Walk in the late '90s, which is timeless. I mean, it's like Steve Jordan and I can't remember the bass player's name, total monster. But if you want to hear some amazing guitar playing, put on the title track, Tiger Walk, of Robin Ford's record, Tiger Walk.
Hey.
Incredible.
Should we get him over here for a live stream with you?
Let's get him over here. Yeah.
He's right down the street.
In my neighborhood.
He's been here before.
Yeah, there you go.
So what else we got?
We have Steve asking, what's your secret to always being in tune?
Ooh. That's a good question.
Here, I'm going to show you. Right here. This little beauty right here. You got to get one of these. Yeah. It's a tuner. Well, no, to be serious, I mean I'm kind of serious. We use tuners, but you got to have a good guitar. Yeah. You got to have a good, find a good guitar, and make sure you have a professional set it up. Yeah. Change your strings when they start playing out of tune or they get funky. Change your strings.
Here's the other thing.
And make sure your guitar's intonated properly a couple times a year, especially when the winter and the summer change happens, because your guitar's going to go nuts. Right?
Here's the
and don't press too hard.
Thank you. That's what I was trying.
Don't press too hard. Look, you're dealing with a little.
Well, just show them. Like play a chord and then press too hard, and you can hear it.
Yeah. So here's like a complex kind of chord. Then I'm playing with a very light touch on my right hand. This actually applies to your right hand as much as your left hand. Because the harder you hit this guitar, it's like a drum. It's only going to give you so much until it starts choking.
It's like somebody's nice rub on the back versus somebody's wow.
Exactly. Yeah. I hate when people do that. So look, so here's like I'm barely pressing. Right? I'm barely pressing hard enough to just make sure I'm not doing, you know, buzzing or whatever. Now here's like if I was pressing too hard, well, I'm trying. It's like a guitar. I can't
Yeah,
get
it's
it to go out of tune.
the frets are small.
But if you're really, you know,
pressing hard, like
and
an
also,
E.
yeah, and also if you're inadvertently, you know, if your hand is accidentally bending
down,
in
yeah.
any way. I mean, look, that thing about vibrato is you want to let the string bring itself back down to natural unity tension. You don't want to, because every little, you know, if I do this.
Yeah.
I mean, any little slight bend and
Yeah.
it goes out of tune. So I want to, you know, I want to be able to bring that string back to the natural unity. If I do any vibrato, I'm letting it come back to center every time.
Yeah.
And so be really careful with your vibrato.
Yeah.
You don't want
Buzzing, B.
Just you got to be careful, and have a nice vibrato. You know.
You know, one thing I'll say
It's
too, and
crazy.
I tell students too, is take a string, press as light as you possibly can, and keep picking the note until it makes a sound, and it's like, oh my
That's
God,
a great
you're
exercise.
probably pressing 5 times harder than you need to.
Right.
You know, and then do a chord and do that same thing, because I think what a lot of people do too is they'll press too hard with one finger.
Right.
It's like, why is my chord not sounding in tune? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, again, you're pressing too hard.
Yeah, and certain voicings just sound
Yeah.
better than others. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear guys do this. Brett did this earlier. He played this E chord. You know, or a lot of times I'll play B, and I'm a little out of tune here, but. But like, I love those where there's no thirds, you know. Actually, I put the third in there, but you get the idea, right? Like, you know, these chords that are you don't always want.
Yeah.
You can hear that third kind of rubs, you know. Or if somebody's playing something really, let's see, like a G shape. It has its place, but that third can get real muddy, and so the difference between, you know, this and even like this. And so the difference between this, where I'm playing 1, 3, and then there's the root, this gets a little muddy. So I'll take the 3 and then put the 5 here and the 1. That gives you just a little broader interval, right? So
it's not so in your face.
not so in your face. Yeah, I think that's why we love this chord.
Yeah.
Because it just has a nice.
Totally. Yeah, well, and like what you're saying, even this, like when you know, the third, it sounds different than this. That third,
Right.
because of where it is. It's first instead of.
It's juicier, and it really sounds good with overdrive.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
especially, I mean, that's him, that's the front pickup. So here's one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick, is the mystery of playing over the dominant 7 chord. Okay, now this is huge, because you can't just use your minor pentatonic or your major pentatonic over that by itself.
Show me that chord
It just
again.
doesn't,
What were you playing?
it doesn't sound good. So this is just an E7.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
just playing that part. You can play this, or this, or wherever you want, right? And so what happens is, you can play the major scale over major 7 and major. That works. Because that note is not only in that major 7 chord, but yeah, that works. It works over major if you know. But if you go to major, if you go to dominant 7, now our arpeggio is going to be. So here's major 7. Because remember, we're moving that root back a half step each time to get those 3 different chords. Then here's my arpeggio over the dominant 7 chord. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Because that's the chord, and that works over a 9 chord also. Because this, all we're worried about is this tritone: major 3rd, flat 7, 1. So what happens is I can't use that natural 7 anymore. I have to flat the 7. So that turns into what you guys call Mixolydian mode. I don't really know anything about modes except that one because I like to use it. But I call it the dominant 7 scale. And what that is over E, any 7 chord, any dominant 7 chord, I'm going to change the scale to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. So that gives you. Yeah, it's great. And so that works really well over that. It outlines perfectly the dominant 7 chord. And so I use that all the time, but you have to alter that note to work over that chord. Because if I played this, that note just, E7. So that note just doesn't work, right? Yeah, so but when you change to, and what also happens there is then you start looking at like, okay, well, look at the relationship between E7 and B minor. If you play an E9, the top 3 notes of that are a B minor. So then now I've opened up to where I can play out of B minor ideas over E7, D over E7, B minor, like I said, the 5 minor always works over the 1. So if I'm playing, which if you look at the Mixolydian, it's basically like you're playing like a B minor 6th. So there's the minor 6.
So you're talking about people are playing these chords. What are the 3 sounds you just talked about?
Okay, so here's the thing. So I'm playing over E7, playing that. Here's like straight up Mixolydian. Oh shit. There's I'm using that D all the time.
Yeah.
So then now watch, keep playing that same chord. I'm going to play ideas out of B minor. So if I resolve to the major third of the E chord, we're still in E.
Yeah.
But I'm playing ideas out of B minor just for the sake of the arpeggios and how cool that sounds. That's all. Comes back to how you resolve, and a lot of times it's that major third that's saving you there. So,
what was the
right? And so then
option?
The next thing we can do is I can play, since D is the note that makes E7 E7. I'm gonna play D major 7 ideas over E7.
Okay.
So that sounds like this. That's what I meant to do. All that stuff works. So, well, except that one really stupid mistake I played in there, but like that's all, because here's what you're hearing.
You're allowed one before we kick you out.
You're basically hearing, I think my time's up. So look, so here's what you're hearing there.
Yeah.
All that is E to D, E to D, E to D, E to D, all the way down. So it's that. So I'm always going, if I'm playing over a dominant 7 chord, I'm going to always incorporate the blues, but that hard minor third, if I'm playing over this, I'm going to bend that in the direction of the major third.
Yeah.
So it's not this, but it's not that either.
Yeah.
It's this.
Yeah. So you're playing
the blues.
crossroads.
You're playing the blues. Yeah. So that's it though. So because you don't want to go. You could do that, but
it's that Clapton-y kind of.
yeah, that. Because if you didn't do that, it would be a stark contrast from the minor third to the major third. So sometimes you have to
bend it.
You got to bend it a little bit.
Bending your reality.
So I hope all that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of I just always say my hillbilly
your Bama
theory for Bama version of how to play with the chord changes. But it is so much about just listening.
Yeah.
And really, hearing what you're playing versus just always getting so inside of looking at this. Even though I said looking at this is a huge thing, but you eventually want to get away from it and use this as a tool to be able to get to where you're relying on your ear and your feel and your feel more than anything.
Yeah. What else, Josh? What do we got?
Climber 7565 asks, does the rhythm backing have to be louder than the lead? No. Are you saying for us sitting here right now? Or does he mean
I don't know.
In general?
It seems to be a general question.
So no. So what I tell people is the best thing you can do to practice, especially if you're, living in an area where you're not able to play with other musicians, or you just might not know any, and you're, wherever you're at in your music room or your basement or wherever you're playing your guitar, find a way to play along with something else. Play along to records. What better way to jam than putting on your favorite band
for sure
and playing along with them? But make sure that you have a way to turn it up loud enough or turn yourself down to where I would say the rhythm, if you're practicing at home to a metronome or a drum machine or a backing track or a record or whatever it is, crank it up enough to where you're getting inside that groove more than you're
playing on top of
it. Mm-hmm. Make sure that that you're in the mix, if you will, or a little bit under it, because you want that rhythm to be so loud in your ears that when you're getting off. And I think that's a really good way to practice.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean you have to be super loud. I just mean get it.
Yeah.
And no matter what level you're at, make sure that you're really hearing the rhythm track, and don't play along to crappy music. You got the opportunity to play with the best bands in the world. Pick some great bands that are really in time and have good recordings. Where you can hear the bass notes and things like that. Mm-hmm. Don't jam along to some really crappy live recording from the 60s or something like that. I mean, you know what I mean? It makes sense. Put on something that's a quality recording so you can actually hear the drums and the kick drum and the bass and everything. That's my 2 cents.
Wondering, do you practice the building blocks dry or always over changes?
Well, you got to practice them by themselves before you can play over the changes. So you want to, yeah, depending on what level you're at, you want to be reinforcing these fundamentals big time. Like I said, to where you know them cold.
Would you do something like practicing over a 1-chord vamp and then maybe a 2-chord vamp?
Yeah, start.
And then maybe work your way up to multiple changes, because I think people get lost. They're like, oh God, they're trying to find all these changes. It's like, no, you're trying to do too many at once.
Yeah, don't start with it's like, I'm not going to go practice, giant steps at home.
Right.
Because I don't, that's way too many chords. But yeah, start with something like I was doing a minute ago, where it's like, you might just play like A minor to D7.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Those are two chords. Those are two different chords, but they're very related. So don't kill yourself trying to play some real complicated chord change. I do see that a lot. Guys will go, "Hey man, I got this chord change." And I'm like, "Dude, we need to break that way down
exactly."
To like one, like you said, either one chord. Get familiar with those sounds. Here's what I would do if I was you guys, and we're wanting to learn some more of this stuff. I would, when you sit down, try to. Rather than noodling around and weaving in and out of a bunch of keys that you can't even hear where you're at, because I see it a lot. And so try to make yourself, even if you have to write it down, say, okay, when I sit down to play the guitar today, I'm going to have fun with it for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to play my usual stuff and warm up. But then I'm going to make a conscious effort of, like, for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to play in E major.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to stay in E major. And if I start to get where I'm questioning where I'm at, I'm going back to the chord and I'm going to listen.
Yeah.
And then go, okay, I'm going to make a conscious effort now for the next 5 minutes. I'm going to play over E minor.
Yeah.
And stick to E minor. And if you waver or you find yourself not knowing if you're there or not, stop and play the chord and go back to it.
Yeah.
And then maybe go, okay, I'm going to play over G major 7 for a minute. Just try to mix it up to where you're really getting to learn the the different sounds of these 4 really important shapes, because your ear is going to have to develop. It may or may not. Like some of us are lucky to have a good ear that continues to develop, and our musical taste is going to keep going. Like I said, I don't listen to a lot of 3-chord blues songs anymore because my ear is developed to where I want to hear more harmonic content or something. And so some people will never get there.
Yeah.
Their ear just is not going to hear it, and that's okay. But I would say, challenge yourself. Try to listen to some music that you think you might not like. Put on some crazy, just something different. Challenge yourself. I don't want to name any names, but I mean, I'll tell you what I listen to all the time is I listen to Buena Vista Social Club Pandora Radio, because I love to listen to music in my car. I get in there, I'll put the Afro-Cuban jazz, Latin jazz on, or the Cuban music, and that, to me, that's like all boxes for me music are checked. I got rhythm, I got harmonic content, I've got soul, I've got great singing, and I even like to be even better that I can't tell what they're saying. And so, because, a lot of times I don't want to hear real literal lyrics when I'm just wanting to drive down the road.
Right.
It's like, give me something that's just really good music that I can jam to. And,
Yeah.
and there's a ton of great ideas in that music. I think
For sure.
right now I'm on a big kick with the Cuban stuff, but I always have been. But
Florida. Florida
maybe
seeped in.
I got the salt water in my veins, I guess. Yeah.
What else we got going?
Well, all of them. He asked what arpeggios do we mainly lean on. Well, all of them, because all the 5 chord shapes, they all have them. So, and the goal is to be able to link them together. So you want to learn, this is a good point too, you want to learn all this information vertically, but then you want to start connecting it horizontally. So I could play this, this is getting off your question a little bit, but I could play this scale here. That's keeping it right in the G shape. It's all right here. But I can also connect these shapes by playing that same scale. Start here, So I'm connecting from here down. So that gives me the opportunity. If I get stuck up here and I feel like I'm getting painted into a corner, I'm going to try to get down here to the meat of the guitar as fast as I can, probably back to some like safe zone, you know. And this is going to come in really handy when you start trying to play things that are up to tempo, because there's no time for thinking at that point. You just have to, you got to be able to go.
Grip it and rip it.
You got to grip it and rip it. And so, but to get you to your point, each one of these shapes has an arpeggio. So here, you know, here's your C shape. Here's your A shape. Here's your G shape. And then if it's minor, you drop the
third.
The third. And so if I play over the major 7, the arpeggio is going to go 1, 3, 5, natural 7, major, major 7, dominant 7, minor. So this riff, very major, right? That's E major. This is E minor, flat the third, same lick.
Yeah.
Right, so there's major, here's minor.
Sounds so cool about arpeggios.
Right?
Man.
It just connect. Well, the thing about the arpeggios that are so great is because they immediately spell out the chord.
Yeah.
If you play it right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, you know, you don't want to, you want to use, we're never departing from the fundamentals. We're never going to depart from the pentatonic and the arpeggio and the major scale.
Yeah.
We're going to use all that stuff. You know, Robin Ford, you go hear him play, he plays the pentatonics all the time. But it's the phrasing and the tone and all that stuff that makes it work. Like, you could take that lick and then turn it into, you add a little altered note, you know. What would that be? So you're using the arpeggio, but you're also incorporating the scale. So a lot of times I'll go up the arpeggio and then use some of the scale tones. So that's going up E7, straight out of the arpeggio, because that immediately tells the listener that you're playing that chord.
Right.
So then I'll go up the arpeggio, then maybe down the scale.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of that, actually, is just using this shape, 3 strings. There's the arpeggio, now here's down the scale. That's the Mixolydian. So if I connect that big arpeggio, oh shit. So then there's my E7. I've got all this. There's my Mixolydian scale. And then I get all these licks out of here chromatically. I can go with a little jazz phrasing maybe, or something that I stole from somebody. You can take that flat 7, and then you get all this. Here's my major 3rd. Here's my flat 7. Here's my 5, my 3. So I'm looking at all this information so I could come up with some phrasing that might sound like this. So shit. So I'm always coming back to reiterate that major 3rd and the flat 7, you know. So that's walking up to the major 3rd, down to the flat 7, and then maybe back to the scale. But you want to be able to play something that has a phrase to it. So, I mean, you know, whatever you play. have like a starting and an ending
We
point.
got to get you back
It's got to make some sense.
to go over your timing, like when you get that real bouncy, like that real bouncy feel that you hear when you're
I
playing.
think that's the swing feel, which is going to come from learning to play blues and then West Coast jump blues and then some Western swing kind of stuff, some jazz basically. But I think that technique, my right hand, people have commented on that before, and I think what it is it's from playing so much bluegrass when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And really getting the, we used to call them I can't remember. I guess it's alternating. I'm just going, down, up, down, up. So when you play like, it's like bluegrass style, but so it's flat picking really. And so I think that really helps you to be able to have that like
that kind of bouncy
that
style.
bouncy feel, because jazz and bluegrass are really kind of
very similar.
Very similar, because you've got a head and then you solo, you improvise, and then if you can't play fast and clean, you're not considered one of the cats.
Worthy.
Right? Worthy.
You're not on stage.
Right. Yeah, but those guys are all about, man. If you can't be sloppy in those genres. You know, you got to be. If you want to be, one of the cats, you got to be able to play fast and clean, and nice and solid. So I think from years and years of trying to do that as a kid, that really came in handy as far as the alternating picking. And then I started getting into Danny Gatton when I was a kid, and that's what brought in the hybrid technique, which is great for a lot of different styles. Even blues, and whatever style I'm playing, that always slips in, because you're able to do chords, different stuff,
It's like a piano almost.
It's like a piano, more
hit
like
everything
that.
at
Yeah,
once.
instead of strumming, you just
it's all at once.
you're getting it all at once. Yeah.
Nice. Anything else we got out there?
Steve Couch asked you try to pick the notes as little as possible. You use hammer-ons, pull-offs, and sliding more.
You pick a lot.
So the question was, do you pick all the notes, or do you like to use hammer-ons, slides, pull-offs, etc.? That's a tough one. I mean, I pick a lot, but those other things, they just come in. They come in where they need to, And so it's good to have those techniques. I mean, hammer-ons, pull-offs, but
it's all just tools.
They're just tools, and they just come and go as you need them or as you feel them,
Yeah.
And so, but you definitely want to be able to incorporate all those tools. But yeah, I do. I pick a lot, and then like I said, I mean, constantly sliding and hammering on, pulling off.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just all those things end up being part of your toolbox.
Yeah.
But there's not a conscious effort of when to do it and when not. That's what you want to be able to do, is get to the point where if you have to think about where to hammer on and pull off, then it's time to keep playing more.
Yeah. It's just different sounds.
It's just different sounds, and you kind of you just kind of learn where to do those and when not to.
What else we got?
Any tips on right hand technique, as I'm just learning to use a pick? You all rest your little finger on the guitar.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of my natural playing position is and I don't play, as you guys know, I don't play strats very often. But yeah, you just want to, my hand ends up kind of looking like this. I use this part of this hand to kind of, give me a little bit of a brace, or sometimes I'll gravitate towards something that's a solid foundation on the guitar. Like if you look at my old
like an anchor
Floyd
point.
Telly.
Yeah.
If you look at that old Telly that I have, there's a hole right here from my little finger digging in, and it's about that deep. I mean, there's a significant amount of wood gone there,
right.
And that's because I've always grabbed under the bridge right there, because that gives me a nice solid play. But I mean, if I'm just playing,
Oh, that's very. I never noticed that. It is always on the pick guard.
Yeah, and so the farther you go back, of course, all these different sounds. And so my hand's moving around a little bit. A lot of times if I play on the high strings, it moves up here a little more, and on the lower strings a little bit farther back. just depends,
Yeah.
But that's kind of my natural go-to is you don't want to be doing this or this or any of this kind of stuff. It's just a nice, comfortable hand position.
Yeah.
Light touch too. We're very light touch. Yeah.
Can you name a few intermediate level classic rock blues songs that you like for working on playing over chord changes?
God, any classic blues stuff, is always going to be good.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, you know what? If I was going to sit down and play along to a record, why not just put on something like Eric Clapton, From the Cradle?
Yeah.
Right. Great blues. Great recording.
Yeah.
You can hear everything.
It's interesting that you
Great
mentioned
grooves.
You mentioned him too. Is to get that next step in playing too. His Journeyman.
Oh yeah.
Album's fantastic
I
because
love that record.
because it's blues, but then he starts adding real, like more pop sounding
Right.
chord progressions
I love
to it.
that record.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That might be my favorite one.
Yeah.
And then just any classic blues. I mean, any Albert King, any of the Kings, Freddie King, B.B. King, Albert Collins, Jimmy Reed. If you really want, this is an important thing to get together. Is the that real swing. That's a swing feel, and so it's all based on the shuffle and the triplets. But any Jimmy Reed or anything like that. I mean, just listen to as much blues and learn how to play as much blues as you possibly can, because that's going to make all the other music you play in your life feel really good.
Yeah,
you gotta have that. And so any great blues records. And classic rock is not my bag, so he could tell you more.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
And then just because it's so familiar.
Right.
And locked in there, but even like Van Halen albums, they're still like a lot of them's like 1-4-5 like blues progressions,
Yeah, you know who else I always say to learn stuff from is Tom Petty.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Because you already know all those songs.
Yeah.
And they're pretty, not to take anything away from them, but they're easier.
They're simple, yeah.
They're simple, and you guys already know all those songs, so they're going to be easy for you to learn.
It's a great example too, though, because it's not just blues licks.
Right.
The guitar player really does
some awesome stuff.
Yeah, really good parts.
Van Morrison, Jackson Browne, play along to some good songs.
Yeah.
See,
you've got this down.
I always think we have a lot of people asking about a minor cage system.
It's just moving that one note.
Sure. Yeah. Your major. Let me get some volume going here. Major would be. There's your major, and then minor. You need to really get inside these chords, and I can't stress this enough. Listen to what is actually going on there. What's going on here? This third is moving. That's the difference right there. That 1/2 step changes the entire color and sound of what is going on. So this, how many times have you heard this? That's as major a lick as you're ever going to get, right? But then when you go to this, there's your minor, but the whole color is changing from that chord to the next. So just really try to get inside the sound. I can't stress enough, it's listening and the sound. We're playing music here.
Yeah.
So it's really simple.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is to make music.
Well,
and so these things are really crucial. Listening is music. That's what it is. It would be like if we were sitting here teaching painting, we'd be saying like, we'd be talking about colors and all this stuff. But, we're trying to make music here. So listening is the most important part. I would rather hear a guy with one string and a finger on each hand, and all he can do is play one really great melody. I'd rather hear that than some guy that can shred and is just playing a lot of stuff, you know?
Well, and I think a lot of people, when it comes to you, when they hear you, they don't realize, but you've touched upon it. But like, if people want to sound like you more, I would say they'll listen to Latin stuff and bluegrass too, because those are huge, because they're both very very cool phrasing, but they're very like change oriented.
Yeah.
You know, like especially the bluegrass guys, like just start listening to bluegrass, because they're so good at technique, but it's all about melody.
Right.
And I think when
Big
you
time.
talk about hearing stuff, those are genres of music where you'll hear those changes that you're talking about.
Yeah. And exactly. And just listen to as much music as you can stand. I mean, I don't listen to, none of us are going to listen to anything we don't like.
Yeah.
You know, but if you like it or you think you might want to try it, just jump in there, because it's going to make you a better musician. At least you might find out what you don't like, you know?
Yeah. But to get to your place, they got to understand those types of music, because it's so in your playing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. And you know, these little moves like I did a minute ago, just going A minor to your 5, you know, A minor to E7. That change right there, you know. That's a great, to get to where you can navigate through those two chords is a great exercise. That's my 2 cents on it, you know. Like I said,
That's more like 7 cents.
80% the spirit of music, 20% fundamentals to where you can get there. You know?
Agreed.
Physically get there, you know.
All right, last question to take us home.
All right, last question. We got, when you're soloing over chords, do you stick to one key or change with each chord?
Say that again.
When you're soloing over chords, do you stick to one key or change with each chord?
I think I know what he means. So
Do you follow the changes, or do you play out of it? Like, so if we did this, you know, are you sticking to a key or a mode, or are you playing E and then you play off of B to A, or do you do both?
yeah, and again, I know you're gonna get sick of me saying this, but it all comes down to what is going on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it might be appropriate. Like if Brett was to play some really weird chord after that, like, you know, I always use the 3 dominant 7 as an example. But if you're, you know, if he went like this, well, you got to be careful, because it's not just a 1-4-5. That's a different. You're introducing some new harmonic content, but even though you went to that really different chord, we're still in the key of E. That's why that chord sounds like it does in that instance, because you're hearing this over that as a foundation.
Yeah.
And so I'm marking the chord changes, but we're still in, unless the song modulates to another key.
Yeah.
You're in the key that the song's in. Like if you played one of my favorite songs to solo over is "Blame It on the Sun" by Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
We used to play it with Charles Walker, and so that song is in A flat, right? So the changes to that song are A flat, 5/7 to F7. So we're getting like, look, and then it goes A flat, 5/7, F7, C minor, G7, C minor, F minor, B flat minor, E flat, F, right? C, so it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But if I soloed over that, I would play. out, I'm just playing over every chord.
Yeah.
But I'm still in the key of A flat.
Yeah. I would say, just me watching you play a bunch, I would say you follow the changes more often.
I follow the changes, but not all the time. If you
right. No, but like...
If you start following them too literally over like a slow blues.
Sure.
Sometimes you just want to play the blues.
Yeah.
Right. But you still got to kind of be careful, you know. Like I said, it all comes down to the song
context.
Yeah.
All
it
right.
really does.
So everybody make sure you check out GuthrieTrapp.com. Also, Artist Works. You got an awesome school over there.
Thanks.
Check out, you got an awesome YouTube channel too where you do talk about a lot of this stuff. So make sure you subscribe, like, hit the bell, all that stuff. Same thing over here. If you want to support the cause over here, go to brettpapa.com. Some of the cage stuff they were asking about, I do have a whole course on the cage system, both in major and minor, so you can check that out as well. But thank you. Thank you. Guys. It was good to have you in the house, man.
Thank you, buddy. Always. Yeah, cheers, y'all.
All right. Catch you next time.
See ya.